All right, today we're going to be talking about nomenclature of alcohols and reactions of alcohols. We're going to shove them both together in the same lecture because I think we can get through all that in the time we have today. So let's talk about some properties of alcohol. What are their physical properties? In terms of their properties, they're really, really similar to the properties of amines. Remember amines last week we talked about they have the NH2 group. Amines are capable of hydrogen bonding, right? And alcohols contain an OH group. OH group is also capable of hydrogen bonding, right? So therefore, their properties, in terms of their physical properties, are pretty similar. The OH is capable of hydrogen bonding. So in other words, we're going to have much, much higher boiling point for an alcohol than, say, an alkane, because this has hydrogen bonding, right? Whereas an alkane doesn't. It's just got London forces. And also, they're going to be soluble in water so long as the chain is 6 or less, right? Around 6 carbons, solubility kind of goes to around 6. That's kind of the magic number. Just like with amines, right? With our chain length. Remember, if the chain gets too long, then the effect of the nonpolar region overrides the effect of the hydrogen bonding, right? So that's why around 6 carbons, the solubility just kind of falls off the cliff. So here are two, I just made these kind of off the cuff, right? Hydrogen bonding and ethanol, right? There's its boiling point at 78.5. It's a liquid at room temperature. Where here's ethane, right? Ethane has London forces only. So if you're comparing ethanol to ethane, right? Ethane is just you yank off this OH, put that hydrogen back, right? It's a gas at room temperature. It boils at -42 versus 78.5. That's a humongous difference. And the solubility increases with the number of OH groups. Okay, so if you have one OH group, that's soluble. But if you've got 2 OH groups, that's going to be even more soluble, right? The more places you have where you can have hydrogen bonding, the more soluble it's going to be. Also, this would have a much higher boiling point, right? The one with the 2 OH groups is called a diol. This one's going to have a much higher boiling point than the one with just 1 OH group. So how do we name alcohols? It's really easy. Our parent chain must contain the OH, just like with amines. Right, last week when we named amines, we had to make sure that our parent chain contained the amine. Here, our parent chain needs to contain the OH. Our suffix becomes all, right? That's the suffix. And then we're going to number that parent chain to give the OH the priority. So in other words, if we have the choice between making a methyl group have a low number or making an OH group have a low number, we're going to choose to give the OH group the smaller number. And then we're going to use numbers to locate where the OH group is in that chain. And then if this is a cyclic molecule, we're saying that OH is carbon number 1. Now, because this is elementary organic, we're only going to name molecules with 1 functional group at a time, right? So I'm not going to worry about naming a molecule that contains both an amine and an OH, okay? We're only going to deal with 1 functional group at a time in elementary organic, just FYI. Now, also one more thing to talk about is that, remember we talked about how with the alkenes and alkynes and amines, you could split the suffix, right? You can do the same thing with alcohols as well. So let's do this one together. All right, so this is a 4-carbon chain. Now here's the choice. I could number it 1, 2, 3, 4 and have the OH get the lower number. Or I can number it 1, 2, 3, 4 and have the methyl group with the lower number, right? The alcohol gets higher priority than any other substituent. So if that were chlorine or bromine or whatever, right? The OH group is the lower priority, the lower number, higher priority. Now, we can then just make this suffix butanol, and then there's a methyl group on carbon 3. So the name is 3-methyl-2-butanol. But also I want to show you both methods, right? We can also split this up and name this 3-methyl-butan-2-all, right? You can split the suffix. Your textbook leaves it together, right? It puts 2-butanol, and that's perfectly acceptable. But some other textbooks will put the 2-all as the end, okay? So either one's acceptable. Your homework should accept both. Most students prefer this method because that's what your textbook uses, right? And it's just kind of easier to say this than it is to say this, but they're both acceptable, okay? Are we good on nomenclature here? All right, if you understood amines, then alcohols are a walk in the park. Because unlike with amines, we have N-ethyl and all that good stuff, we're not going to make any modifications to the alcohol. Like last week when we did amines, we talked about regular amines versus modified amines. We're not making any modifications to the alcohol, so it's really easy to make. Now, if it's a ring, by default, the OH gets number 1 status, right? And then you just need to decide how to number. Do you number clockwise and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or do you number counterclockwise 1, 2, 3? You'd obviously go counterclockwise, right? So 3-methylcyclohexanol. Be good on aiming it in a ring? Okay. So let's just take a second and practice. I'll pause the video, give you a chance to try. All right, let's go over these. So we need to decide longest hierarchy and where we're going to number from. Obviously, we're going to number from the right. Yes, because if we number from here, there are no other substituents, and this needs to have priority. So we number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what's the name here? Don't forget the 2, right, 2-hexanol. Right, because that OH could be anywhere, and so you have to put the 2. It could be on carbon number 1, right? It could be 1-hexanol. Could be 2, could be 3, right? How come it couldn't be 4-hexanol though?
Because we number.
Right, because if it were right here, you'd start numbering from the left. Good. Okay, here we go. Let's number 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So then we have our choices. Okay, numbering this way gives me 1, 2, 3. If I go this way, that gives me 2 substituents. If I number this way, that gives me 3 substituents, right? So which one am I going to pick?
1, 3.
The linear version, right? Because I want to pick the version that gives me the most substituents. So I number from here. Why am I not numbering from here?
Because the alcohol takes
Right, the alcohol takes priority over this methyl group. Good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we just need to do all of our guests, right? All of our substituents. So this is a methyl group. This is a what group? Ethyl group, right? So we have to go alphabetically. So what's the name here? 4-ethyl, 5-methyl, 2-hexanol, right? And then again, you could have written that as 4-ethyl, 5-methyl, hexane dash 2-all. That would work as well. Good. You feeling good about this? Right. Nomenclature of alcohols is pretty straightforward, especially if you understand amines, then you understand alcohols. I think they're very, very similar. And like I said at the beginning of the semester, like that first lecture is kind of the worst, right? And then after that, it's really just variations on a theme. Oops. So let me pause it and let's try 2 that are in rings. Let's look at our 2 cyclics, see what we got. So, carbon number 1 is here, right? And now we just need to decide which direction we're going to number. We're going to number clockwise or counterclockwise? Right, clockwise. 1, 2, 3. So the name of this would be what? 3-ethyl. Now, do you need the 1? No, because it's by default number 1. So 3-ethyl cyclo pentanol, right? You don't need the 1 because it's a ring and it's an alcohol. Therefore, that's default setting number 1. Now, in a minute, we'll talk about molecules containing 2 OH groups, and then you would have to designate where both OHs are. But here, because there's just 1, you don't need to put the 1. All right, there's no question that this is carbon number 1. Now we just need to figure out which way we're numbering. Which way? Counterclockwise, right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what's the name of this? 3,4-dimethyl.
Cyclohexanol.
Right. Good. Feel good on naming and rings? All right. Okay, let's go the other way. I've given you some structures to draw. So here are two names. You take a stab at trying those. All right, let's see what we got. So octan tells me it's an 8-carbon chain, right? It's not cyclo, so it's linear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2,4-dimethyl, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3 octanol. Do we agree? And then let's do, this is a heptanol. How many carbons are in that chain? 7, and it's cyclo, so have fun drawing a 7-membered ring. I have to kind of think about drawing a 7-membered ring too. Okay, so that's carbon number 1. And then 3 bromo, 1, 2, 3. Do we agree? All right. All right, I think we can, we can skip on down to this. This is what we did last week with amines, and we're going to see it again with alcohols, primary, secondary, and tertiary. Right, so this will be a primary alcohol. It's a OH with just 1 carbon atom. Right? So, for instance, this is the simplest alcohol you could have. This is methanol. Right? This is CH3OH. That's a primary carbon. That's a primary alcohol. Or if this is a carbon and it's attached to some other chain, or some other whatever, right? That's still an OH attached just to 1 carbon, right? Now, here will be a secondary alcohol. So a secondary carbon is a carbon that's in a chain, okay? So here, R just means the rest of the chain. So for instance, if this is CH2, CH2, CH3, and this is CH2, CH2, CH3, right? This carbon is attached to 2 other carbons. That makes it a secondary carbon. That makes this a secondary alcohol. This carbon would be attached to 1 other carbon. That makes it a primary carbon. That makes this a primary alcohol. Okay? And then here, this would be a tertiary carbon. If it's attached to CH2, CH2, CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3, right? Chain, all 3 directions. That's a carbon attached to 3 other carbons. That makes it a tertiary carbon. That makes that a tertiary alcohol. Can you have a quaternary alcohol? No, because how would you have a quaternary carbon? A quaternary carbon will be attached to 4 carbons, right? And then you have an OH in addition to that. And a carbon can't have 5 bonds, right? So let's just go over these verbally. What kind of alcohol? Primary, secondary, or tertiary? That'd be secondary. Good. What about this one? That'd be tertiary. Good. What about this one?
Primary.
Primary. Good. And then what about this one? It's in a ring. Well, what's that carbon attached to?
Oh.
It's attached to 2 other carbons, right? So it'd be a secondary. Good. All right, I think we can skip over this. Now, common names are something that you see. You see this TERT or T or SEC, SEC or S. That stands for tertiary, secondary. Okay, these are called common names. Those are not IUPAC names. I don't think your homework is going to ask for these, but I still like to show it to you. Okay, so for instance, this would be T-butyl alcohol because that is a 4-carbon configuration and it's got the alcohol on a tertiary carbon. This would be S-propyl, right? Because there are 3 carbons that makes it propyl. And this is a secondary carbon where the OH is. But again, these are not IUPAC names, right? The IUPAC name of this would be what? 2-methyl, then what? 2 propanol, right? And then this would just be 2-propanol. Right? Okay, now when you have more than one OH group, we're going to call it either a diol or a triol. Okay. So this is a diol. Okay, you do have to state where both OHs are, because they could both be on number 1, right? It could be 1,1 ethane at the diol, right? Or it could be 1,2 at the diol. All right, antifreeze. My car is leaking this at the moment, so I need to take my car to the shop. So let's do these just together. Let's just do these together. I'm not going to pause the recording. I'm just going to lower them down so I can write. Let me pause the recording real quick. All right, let's go over this one. So we've got a diol here. We've got 2 OH groups we have to contend with. Right? So we're going to number to give priority, and there are no other substituents. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this would be 2, 4, what?
Is it heptadiol?
Heptadiol, right. Heptadiol. Good. And then here, which way do we number? From the right or from the left? From the left, right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. So this would be what?
2-methyl.
2-methyl, right?
1,3 pentadiol.
Right. Good. And just for fun, so I don't have to make another one problem up, let's just pretend that there was another OH right here. What would the name be now? It'd still be 2-methyl, right? 2-methyl.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, right.
Triol.
Pentatriol, right. Pentatriol. Tri if there are 3. Okay, so diols and triols in terms of their nomenclature are going to be very, very, very similar. If I asked you which one is going to be the highest boiling point, the diol versus the triol is going to have the higher boiling point, right? Because it's got 3 sources of hydrogen bonding versus 2. So in terms of predicting their properties, in terms of nomenclature, I think alcohol nomenclature is not that bad. So let's just skip on down to some practice. Now, these are all structural isomers. Whoops. Gotta put the screen back up. This is something you'll see in the enrichment we do this week. Right? These are all structural isomers. Right? You can have structural isomers of alcohols. They'll have the same formula. Well, they have different boiling points. Could I separate this mixture? Yes, you could. Structural isomers can be separated. Right? Remember, conformations can't be separated because that's just caused by rotating. So if I stand on my right foot versus standing on my left, right? But if I put the OH group in a different spot, it is going to modify the intermolecular forces slightly, but it'll be enough that you could distinguish the boiling point difference.